Morning came quietly. Victoria woke first, as she always did. Years of discipline did that to a body, trained it to rise before indulgence could soften it. For a moment, she lay still, staring at the faint reflection of the city in the glass walls. Then she felt it. Warmth.
Wait.
Lucia's arm lay draped across her waist, loose but deliberate, as if even in sleep she knew exactly where she belonged. Her head rested against Victoria's shoulder, hair spilling across her collarbone in careless contrast to the order Victoria usually demanded of her life. Victoria closed her eyes. This was the mistake. Not the night. Not the want. This quiet aftermath where nothing was being proven. Lucia shifted, murmured something unintelligible, fingers tightening slightly. The sound hit Victoria somewhere beneath her ribs. She gently disengaged, careful not to wake her, and stood. The cold floor grounded her. She dressed quickly. White shirt, black trousers, armor. By the time Lucia woke, the bed beside her was empty. For a brief, sharp second, panic flared, then anger replaced it. Of course. She sat up, wrapping the sheet around herself, scanning the room. The penthouse was silent except for the distant hum of the city. Then she heard it.
Piano. Soft.
Controlled. Distant. Lucia followed the sound. Victoria sat at the Steinway, posture perfect, fingers moving with restrained precision. The music wasn't one Lucia recognized. It wasn't even complete. It circled itself, unresolved, like a thought Victoria refused to finish. Lucia leaned against the doorway. "You always run before daylight?" she asked quietly. Victoria didn't turn. "I don't run." Lucia smiled faintly.
Right.
"You retreat." That earned her a pause. Victoria's hands stilled on the keys. "You should leave," she said. Lucia's smile faded. "So this is how it goes?" Victoria finally turned. Her face was composed, but her eyes were not. This was not meant to continue. "You brought me here," Lucia said. "I made a mistake." Lucia crossed her arms, the sheet slipping slightly. "Say that again. But say it like you mean it." Every step toward Lucia felt like a test she was failing in real time. "You don't fit into my life," Victoria said. "And I don't bend my life for anyone." Lucia lifted her chin. "I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you doing here?" Lucia met her gaze steadily. "Seeing if you'll tell the truth in the morning." Silence. Victoria looked away first. That was answer enough. Lucia left without another word. The article came out 3 days later. It was devastating. Not cruel, but precise. Lucia wrote about control, about restraint, about a woman who mastered silence so completely that people mistook it for coldness. She never mentioned the penthouse, never mentioned the kiss, never mentioned herself. But Victoria recognized every word. She read it once, then again. Then she didn't play for a week. When she returned to the stage, the audience noticed immediately. The music had teeth now. Where once there was distance, there was edge. Where there was control, there was fracture. Lucia sat in the back unnoticed, hands clenched in her lap. They did not speak. Weeks passed. New York changed seasons. And then, one night, Victoria broke her own rule. She called. Lucia stared at the phone for a long time before answering. "Yes." "You shouldn't have written that," Victoria said. Lucia exhaled softly. "You said you wanted the truth. I wanted distance. You invited proximity." A pause. "Longer this time." "Come to the studio," Victoria said.
Now.
Lucia didn't hesitate. The fight was inevitable. It started quietly, like everything else between them. "You humiliated me," Victoria said. Lucia laughed once, sharp. "You're humiliated by honesty? You turned me into something vulnerable." "You are vulnerable," Lucia snapped. "You just hate that I saw it." Victoria stepped closer, voice low. "You don't get to dissect me like a subject. And you don't get to touch me like I'm disposable." Lucia shot back. That landed. Victoria's jaw tightened. "You left. You pushed." Silence stretched, taut as wire. "I don't do half measures," Victoria said finally. I don't want someone who stays until it's inconvenient. Lucia's voice softened. Then stop making me feel like a weakness. They stood inches apart, anger vibrating between them like a second heartbeat. Victoria reached out, then stopped herself. Lucia watched it happen. That hesitation hurt more than rejection. Say it, Lucia said quietly. Say you don't want me. Victoria opened her mouth. Closed it. Lucia stepped back. That's what I thought. She turned to leave. Victoria grabbed her wrist. Don't, Lucia warned. Victoria didn't let go. Her voice broke, just slightly. I don't know how to want someone without losing myself. Lucia turned back, eyes fierce but wet. Then learn. Or let me go. The room held its breath. Victoria pulled her into a kiss, angry, desperate, unresolved. It tasted like everything they hadn't said. Lucia responded just as hard, hands gripping Victoria's jacket like an anchor. Then Lucia pushed her away. No, she said. Not like this. Victoria looked at her like she'd been struck. Lucia steadied herself. I won't be something you reach for only when you're afraid. She left. This time, Victoria didn't play at all. They didn't see each other for months. Lucia took an overseas assignment. The city moved on, but something had shifted. Victoria missed her. Not in flashes, but in the spaces between things. In the quiet. In the absence of being seen. When Lucia returned, thinner, sharper, carrying stories she didn't share, Victoria showed up at her door unannounced. Lucia stared at her, stunned. You're late, Lucia said softly. I don't do unfinished business, Lucia said. Neither do I, Victoria replied. That's why I'm here. Silence. Then Lucia stepped aside. They talked until dawn. Victoria admitted fear. Lucia admitted hurt. They fought. They laughed once. They almost broke again. But this time neither ran. When the sun rose, Victoria reached for Lucia's hand, open, asking, not commanding. Lucia let her. The ending wasn't dramatic. It was better. They didn't merge lives overnight. Lucia kept her work. Victoria kept her silence, but learned to share it. They argued. They kissed in doorways. They learned each other's edges. And one night, months later, after a concert, Lucia waited backstage. Victoria found her. You stayed, Victoria said. Lucia smiled. You let me. Victoria leaned down, forehead touching Lucia's. I still regret it sometimes. Lucia kissed her softly. Me too. They laughed. And the city for once didn't matter. Jealousy didn't arrive loudly. It never did with Victoria. It crept in through control. Lucia noticed it first at a gallery opening, one of those charity events Lucia hated and attended anyway. The room buzzed with curated laughter and expensive perfume. Lucia stood near the wall, drink untouched, listening to a composer far too young and far too confident tell her how much her article had changed his career. You should come hear my work sometime, he said, smiling too easily. Lucia smiled back, polite. Maybe. That was when she felt it. Not a touch. A presence. Victoria stood across the room, dressed in black as always, speaking to a donor, but her eyes were locked on Lucia. Not glaring. Measuring. Lucia felt it settle under her skin. Later, as they rode home in silence, Lucia finally said, You were staring. I was observing, Victoria replied coolly. Lucia exhaled. You don't observe people like they're trespassing. Victoria's jaw tightened. You entertained him. I was being polite. You enjoyed it. Lucia turned to her then. You don't get to tell me what I enjoy. The elevator ride stretched painfully long. That night, Victoria was distant, controlled in a way that felt deliberate. She touched Lucia less. Kissed her once, brief, restrained, like punctuation instead of hunger. Lucia lay awake, staring at the ceiling. This was new, and she didn't like it. The real fracture came weeks later. Lucia landed a major interview, national profile, high visibility. The subject was a celebrated architect. Female. Brilliant. Openly flirtatious. Victoria read the draft before publication. She didn't comment on the writing. Instead, she asked, "Did she touch you?" Lucia looked up from the counter, startled. "What?" During the interview, Victoria clarified, voice flat. "Did she?" Lucia set the glass down slowly. "Why does that matter?" Victoria didn't answer immediately. That silence, tight, contained, was worse than anger. "You didn't answer," Lucia said. "Yes, she touched my arm," Lucia admitted.
Once.
"And I didn't think it meant anything." Victoria's control cracked. "You let her," she said sharply. Lucia stared at her. "Excuse me?" "You allow access too easily." Lucia laughed once, incredulous. "You're the last person who gets to say that. I am not the one being admired by strangers who think they have a chance. And you think no one looks at you?" Lucia shot back. "You command rooms, Victoria. You just pretend not to notice." Victoria's voice dropped. "I notice." "Then why punish me for it?" That stopped her. Lucia's voice softened, but her eyes were hard. "You don't get to love me and cage me at the same time." Silence fell, heavy bruising. Victoria turned away. "I don't trust people who want you," she said quietly. Lucia swallowed. "Then you don't trust me." That was the truth neither of them wanted. They stopped touching. Not fully, but enough to hurt. Kisses became scarce. Conversations careful. Every compliment from someone else felt like a threat. Every absence felt like suspicion. Lucia finally snapped. "You're pulling away," she said one night. "Say it or stop doing it." Victoria didn't deny it. "I don't like who I become when I'm afraid of losing you." Lucia stepped closer. "Then don't make me pay for it." Victoria looked at her, really looked, and something in her broke. "I don't know how to share you," she admitted. "I've never had to." Lucia reached up, cupped her jaw gently. "You don't own me." "I know. But I choose you." That did it. Victoria kissed her then. Not possessive, not angry. Desperate. Like an apology, she didn't know how to say out loud. "I don't want to lose you," Victoria murmured against her lips. Lucia rested her forehead against hers. "Then stop pushing me toward the door." The jealousy didn't vanish overnight.
It softened.
Victoria learned to name it instead of weaponize it. Lucia learned to reassure without surrendering herself. And one night, months later, when someone flirted openly with Lucia at a concert reception, Victoria simply stepped beside her, placed a hand at the small of her back, grounding, not claiming. Lucia looked up, surprised. Victoria leaned in and whispered, "I trust you." Lucia smiled. That was the moment jealousy stopped being a threat and became proof of how deeply they mattered to each other. The woman's name was Eleanor Hale. Lucia noticed her before Victoria did. She was polished in a way that didn't ask permission, tailored suit, silver rings, hair pulled back with intentional carelessness. She laughed easily, stood too close when she spoke, and listened like every word mattered. She was also a patron, which meant she had access. Eleanor appeared at rehearsals first, then backstage. Then, at dinners Lucia wasn't invited to. "She's funding the chamber series," Victoria said once, too casually. "She's interested in the work." Lucia nodded, but something tightened anyway. Interest had a sound, and Eleanor's interest was loud. The first time Lucia felt it hit her in the chest was at a post-concert gathering. Victoria stood with Eleanor near the bar, their heads bent together. Eleanor touched Victoria's arm when she laughed, lingering just a fraction too long. Lucia watched. Victoria didn't pull away. That was new. When Victoria finally noticed Lucia across the room, something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or irritation. Lucia couldn't tell which was worse. Later, in the car, Lucia said nothing. Victoria broke first. "You were quiet." Lucia stared out the window. "You didn't look for me." "That's not fair." Lucia turned then, eyes sharp. "Was it fair when you accused me of being too open with people who admired me?" Victoria's jaw tightened. "This is different." "Is it?" Lucia asked. "Or do you just like being wanted by someone who doesn't challenge you?" Silence slammed down. Victoria didn't answer. Eleanor escalated. She sent flowers to the studio. She attended every show. She asked Victoria questions no one else dared. And then she crossed the line. Lucia found out by accident. An article mention. A photo. Eleanor's hand on Victoria's back. Intimate. Lucia confronted Victoria that night. She kissed me, Victoria said finally, voice flat. Lucia froze. What? It meant nothing. Lucia laughed, a sharp, broken sound. That's exactly what you said when I accused you of wanting distance. I stopped it. After or before? Lucia demanded. Victoria didn't answer. That was the moment something cracked. Lucia stepped back like she'd been struck. You don't get to do this, she said quietly. You don't get to make me feel disposable while you entertain someone who wants to replace me. I never invited it. You didn't shut it down, Lucia snapped. Because you liked the power. Victoria's voice dropped dangerously. Careful. No, Lucia said. I'm done being careful for you. They fought like people who knew exactly where to hurt each other. Victoria accused Lucia of emotional recklessness. Lucia accused Victoria of cowardice. Every unspoken fear surfaced. Every insecurity sharpened. You don't trust me, Lucia said. You don't stay, Victoria fired back. I stayed every time you pushed me away. And I watched everyone else want you. The words landed heavy. Lucia's voice broke. So this is punishment? Victoria's eyes darkened. This is consequence. That was it. Lucia grabbed her jacket. I won't compete for you. You already are, Victoria said coldly. Lucia stopped at the door. Then you've already lost me. She left. Not publicly. Never publicly. But the music fractured. She canceled meetings. Snapped at staff. Played harder, sharper, faster, like she was trying to outrun regret. Eleanor noticed. She offered comfort. Victoria let her once. It felt wrong immediately. When Eleanor reached for her again, Victoria pulled away violently. Don't. Eleanor looked startled. I thought. You thought wrong, Victoria said. And you crossed a line I will not forgive. Eleanor left. Victoria went home alone. For the first time, the penthouse felt empty. Lucia tried to move on. She failed. Every city reminded her of Victoria. Every silence felt like unfinished music. She dated once, briefly. It meant nothing. One night, months later, Victoria showed up unannounced. Lucia opened the door and froze. Victoria looked wrecked, controlled, but exhausted. Like holding herself together had become a full-time job. You were right, Victoria said quietly. About all of it. Lucia crossed her arms. You don't get absolution just because you regret it. I don't want absolution, Victoria said. I want honesty. Lucia swallowed. Then start talking. Victoria did. About fear. About control. About how jealousy had terrified her more than loneliness ever had. About how Eleanor hadn't been the threat, Lucia's independence had been. I didn't know how to love someone who didn't orbit me, Victoria admitted. Lucia's voice was soft but unyielding. I won't disappear for you. I don't want you to. Silence stretched. Then Lucia said, if we do this again, jealousy doesn't get to be a weapon. It gets named. Or it ends us. Lucia searched her face. This is your last chance. Victoria didn't hesitate. I know. Lucia closed the distance. The kiss wasn't desperate. It was deliberate.
A choice.
And this time, no one else stood between them. The confrontation happened where Victoria hated it most. In public. Uncontrolled. Unavoidable. It was the closing night of the Winter Philharmonic series. The hall was full. Critics, patrons, donors, photographers. Lucia sat 3 rows back, unannounced, unseen until Victoria walked on stage. Victoria felt her immediately. She always did. The performance was flawless. Technically perfect. But Lucia heard it. The tension threaded through every note. The restraint pulled too tight. Victoria wasn't playing for the audience. She was playing at someone. At the reception afterward, Lucia stayed near the edge of the room, nursing a drink, watching Victoria move through clusters of people like gravity incarnate. Then she saw it. A young conductor. Confident. Too close.
He leaned in, laughed.
Touched Victoria's shoulder. Lucia's jaw tightened. Victoria didn't step away. Something sharp and old flared in Lucia's chest. Anger, memory, fear. She crossed the room before she could stop herself.
Victoria.
The room shifted. People noticed. Victoria turned and froze. Lucia stood there, eyes blazing, voice steady but tight. Am I interrupting? The conductor glanced between them, confused. I was just congratulating. Lucia didn't look at him. That's enough. Victoria felt it then, the echo of herself months ago. The same possessive heat. The same fear. Lucia, Victoria said quietly. Not here. Lucia laughed once, humorless. Funny. You didn't mind not here when you made me feel invisible. A hush fell around them. Not silence, attention. This isn't appropriate. Lucia stepped closer. Neither was you letting someone else test the boundaries we almost destroyed ourselves rebuilding. The conductor stepped back, uncomfortable. I should. Yes, Victoria said sharply. You should. He left. The room buzzed. Victoria looked at Lucia, voice low and dangerous. You're doing this because you're jealous. Lucia didn't deny it. Yes. Victoria's breath caught. Lucia continued, quieter now. And because I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt when people think they can reach for what you and I fought to keep. The words landed hard. Victoria looked around, at the watching faces, the whispers, and then back at Lucia. You want to talk about this? She asked. Lucia met her gaze without flinching.
No.
I want you to choose. Silence. Victoria stepped forward. Took Lucia's hand.
Publicly. Decisively.
This, she said clearly, is the only person who gets to stand here. For the first time in her life, control loosened and didn't collapse. Years later, Lucia watched from the wings as Victoria played. The music was different now. Still precise. Still restrained. But warm in places it hadn't been before. Victoria finished. Applause thundered. She looked toward the side of the stage. Toward Lucia. Always Lucia. Later, at home, city lights flickering around them, Lucia leaned against Victoria's shoulder. You don't scare me anymore, Lucia said. Good. Lucia tilted her head. You still intimidate everyone else. Victoria kissed her temple. That's fine. They stood together, silence shared, chosen. And this time, no one left.